Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, here we are again for another week of questions, and we've got plenty today. We've got some good ones. We'll get to them in just a moment. But before we do, don't forget, the YouTube stuff. Help people start Kendo by finding these videos, by liking and subscribing and all that stuff. I always say share, but does anyone share videos? I mean, share it anyway. But and then YouTube goes, oh, that's a good channel, and it shows to people that might be interested in Kendo. They find out about Kendo, they start Kendo, and that's all thanks to you. So make sure you do all that stuff, and most importantly, keep the camera rolling, keep the lights on, keep my kids fed by shopping at KendoStar.com. KendoStar is the best Kendo equipment website in the entire universe. Of course, I'd say that because I own the place, but if you don't believe me, ask around, check with the people in your dojo, because I'm sure everyone's using KendoStar by now. Check our Pallet reviews. We're the best. All right, so shop at KendoStar. After you finish watching this, get on there, KendoStar.com. Right, okay, let's get to these questions. All right, this is quite a long question. It's like 5 questions in one. That's okay. Let's get to it. Hi, Andy. How are you? I'm good. I bring to you more questions. These questions are: 1. Will you have an updated book of the official guide for Kendo instruction, All Japan Kendo Federation of this year? And will you also have the Japanese English Dictionary of Kendo, All Japan Kendo Federation updated this year? Okay, so that's this book, the official guide to Kendo instruction. It was actually updated a couple of years ago. And then the dictionary one as well. I don't have it to hand, but I don't write those books. We don't publish those books. They're published by the All Japan Kendo Federation, and they're not updated every year. All right, they just updated when there's an appropriate update. I don't imagine there'll be an update to the dictionary in the near future, because I don't think the definitions of the words are going to change, and I don't think there's any additions to it. They just updated this one, like I say, just quite recently because of the changes to the Shinai regulations, which we've already talked about. They're in all of the books now. So, no, I don't see there being an updated version of them in the sort of short term. All right, so the ones that are out there now are the ones to get. 2, will you update even more on the new and improved model Busho Original Elite backpack? For example, after you put the Borgo inside the backpack, instead of putting the Kendogi and Hakama on top of the Borgo, you still make a new compartment to put the Kendogi and the Hakama inside of the backpack, so we don't need to put it on top of the Borgo so that it can be separated. Actually, the previous version had a separate pocket. I didn't really like it so much, so that's why I got rid of it. I actually thought it was better to have it all in the same compartment, easier to access. I don't think it's such an important deal to have the Kendogi and Hakama separate from the Borgo. Personally, I don't think that. Maybe that's just me. Let me know in the comments what you think, though. I'd prefer the idea of having more space in the bag overall. Adding a pocket like we had before does take up quite a lot of space in the compartment. And I was finding that a lot of people weren't using them. They were just throwing the Kendogi and Hakama on top of the Borgo anyway. So I think it's more useful without a separate compartment. But let me know what you think. Next one, what's the difference between a carbon Shinai and a bamboo Shinai? Which one is better? Is there any advantages or different disadvantages for using one or the other? So the differences between a carbon Shinai and the bamboo Shinai, of course, is obviously the materials they're made from. The carbon fiber Shinai, well, it's carbon graphite Shinai, is made from it's 4 plastic slats with a carbon graphite core. They're obviously much more durable. They're designed for like dojo use. They were particularly invented for like schools that in Japan that do Kendo as physical education, so that they could just keep them for the Kendo classes for the students that don't normally do Kendo, so they don't need any maintenance, they don't need looking after, and they're really, really durable. that's what they were originally designed for. The advantage of them, of course, is that they're more durable generally, and they are sort of easier to look after, I guess. But the bamboo Shinai is, I think, are overall better. They do need a little bit more maintenance, of course. You need to sort of look after them a bit more, but they're obviously a lot cheaper. The carbon graphite one's super expensive, and the other thing, of course, is that the striking feel you get from the Shinai, the feedback you get from the Shinai is much better with the bamboo Shinai. The carbon Shinai are very, very flexible, and they don't quite I don't think that they are super conducive to mastering tenuichi, shall we say. A lot of people say that like carbon fiber hurt more when you carbon graphite Shinai hurt more when you get hit with them. I don't think that's true. I think the problem with that tends to be with the person that's holding the other side of the Shinai rather than with the Shinai itself. It always tends to be a certain type of Kendoka that uses them, probably because they bust a lot of bamboo Shinai, and it's probably more to do with their technique rather than the Shinai itself. That doesn't suddenly change because they're using a carbon graphite Shinai, of course. So, look, my advice is if you can, stick with bamboo Shinai, to be honest. But if you live in a really dry climate or you don't want to, there is the benefit from the maintenance point of view and the durability point of view from the carbon graphite one. So it's worth bearing in mind. Regarding the padded door cover that you have on the website, is it to protect the door when it's stored or when we are practicing? What's it used for? So that's like the padded cover that we have on the website. It's for just keeping it stored in. You don't wear it. You don't put it on whilst you're wearing the door. Not at all. You just put it on after, like between practice, and it's just to keep. If you've got a particularly nice or expensive door die, you might want to keep it on there just to keep it clean and keep it from getting scratched. Last one. My last question is: will you have the eye protector for sale on KendoStar? If I order a Borgo KendoStar, will it come with the eye protector? No, we don't sell the eye protector. We sell the mouth shield. We don't sell the eye one. I've done a video about the eye ones. I don't like them. I think they're I don't think they're appropriate, to be honest. And I think that they're a little bit dangerous. There's lots of reports of them breaking mid practice, so not so keen on that. They fog up and stuff. So no, I don't intend to sell them. I only try and sell products on KendoStar that I personally would be happy to use myself, for the most part. So there's no way I'd use one of those eye protectors at all. And no, we don't send them with the Borgo. I don't think they're necessary, to be honest. So that's it. Next one. I was pleasantly surprised yesterday when I joined first at our first Taikai between ourselves and another university in town. Well done. No doubt down to the fact I was wearing KendoStar gear. I'd like to claim part of your success there, but I don't think we can. I'm sure you looked amazing as you were doing brilliant as well. During the Shiai, as the day went on, my Kendo was getting better as we went, and I think I've now seen what I'm capable of. I can really focus and produce my best work. My question is, when you find that there's been some improvement in your Kendo, how can you make sure that you keep that new standard going and maintain that level? So, yeah, it's difficult, and it's normally the case, right? If you go to a tournament or something, your first match is usually a little bit ropey, and then you get better as you kind of get into the swing of things, hopefully. And then in terms of like the thing is, unfortunately, the answer to this is simple. It's not a nice answer, but the only way of making sure you kind of keep, as you notice improvements in your Kendo during your Kendo practice, is to just try to repeat them as much as possible. All right, so just try your best to keep maintaining it consciously. The other thing you can do, something I do quite a lot as well, is I always make an effort to video my own practices. I video quite a lot of my own Kendo practices, so especially as I'm not in a position where I have a sort of sensei that can help me. So, you know, I video a lot of my practices and do a lot of self-study, go back and check over what I'm doing, if I'm happy with it or not. The stuff that I'm not happy with, try to change. The stuff that I am happy with, try to repeat. That's the sort of methodology that I do for that. So it's definitely worth doing. Everyone's got a camera on the phones these days, so I'm sure it's something you can set up. So yeah, I recommend doing that. Next one. I know that Kendo is famously strenuous activity, but I found my technique deteriorates really quickly as I get progressively more and more tired through a session. Usually, we have Jigeko right at the end, and by then I'm already so worn out that it's hard to keep in mind the fundamentals we've been drilling beforehand, let alone strike with any speed, power, or poise. Is this something that can be solved just with practice and stamina building, or do I need to change my approach? Right now, it feels like I do 20% of my Kendo at my best, and then the other 80%. I'm just playing catch up, thanks. That's perfectly normal. All right, it's perfectly normal. There's no workaround for this. It's exactly as you say. You just have to keep practicing as your body starts to develop muscle memory over the movements of Kendo. As your body starts to learn Kendo more and more. Some of the movements get easier and less strenuous. Of course, you do start to build up some form of stamina as well. That's definitely part of it. But as you start to improve, Kendo will take less of a toll on your body over the course of the practice. So you will start to, that 20% will start to go up to 25%, and 26%, 27%. It will be a slow process. Yeah, but eventually it's gonna go up, and that balance is gonna tip. All right. It's unlikely you're gonna, get to the point where 100% of your practice is like all your best Kendo. It's not gonna do that, right? Because, I'm the same. I've been in Kendo for a long time. Yeah. And I've practiced a lot. But even now, yeah, towards the end of the practice, that last kirikaishi, it's not my best kirikaishi, you know what I mean? So this is definitely something that affects us all, and it always will. It's part of it. It's part of it. But you have to push yourself. Yeah, keep going, keep trying to improve, so that you can extend that 20% as far as you possibly can. All right. But I'm sure that with practice, with hard work, you'll definitely get there. Next one. So we had an interesting discussion, and I want to know what is the current expectation for ski if you're visiting another dojo. If the sensei at the dojo you're visiting skis you, is that an open invitation to ski back, or do you have to ask for permission to ski even though they did it first? Right, so this was quite a good comment on the Kendo Show Early Access group. Thank you for posting it. If you're not in the Early Access group, that's where you should be, because that's a great place to post questions. There's a link in description. Right, so I've got some thoughts on this one. Is this week's controversial topic? Is this week's hot take? Could be. Probably, because I think a lot of people aren't going to like what I'm going to say on this, to be honest. Why do you want to ski the sensei? That's my question. Why do you want to ski the sensei? I've asked this question to people in the past, not to the person that's asked this, but in the past, and they've sort of given me this sort of excuse of like, well, I want to use it in the realistic situation. It's like, well, doing the keiko with the sensei isn't for that, right? So ski is a valid strike, perfectly valid as the others. Of course it is, right? But there's, as with any waza, there's a kind of, how can I put this? I think the fundamental problem comes with sort of lack of understanding that we have, unfortunately, in the Kendo community. And this isn't even like this is in Japan as well as outside Japan. It's less of a problem in Japan with people that grow up doing Kendo, but people that come to Kendo later in life. Because look, I talked a bit about last week. I talked a bit about the hierarchy in Kendo, and how that comes from Japanese society, and I think that it's inseparable and it's important. That links to this because when you do Jigeko, there's different types of Jigeko. Okay, there's different types of Jigeko. There's Gokaku Geiko is the type of keiko where you practice with your peers, someone who's a similar level to you. And then there's like Hikitate Geiko, which is when you practice with someone who's a lower level than you, and you're sort of using the keiko to improve there or give them the opportunity. You're not using it to improve them, but you're giving them the chance to improve by standing as motodachi. And this is what the senseis are doing when they practice with you, or us. When senseis practice with us, they are there for us to learn, not to learn from, but to improve from. We have to use them to improve. So one of the reasons that doing ski on the sensei is like, why I asked, why do you want to do ski on the sensei? What's the benefit of doing the ski on the sensei? Right, you're with the sensei, 7th dan, 8th dan sensei. You're gonna ski him. What you're gonna get out of it? All right. What's the point of it? All right. And now this depends on the context of the keiko. If it's ippon shobu or if it's a shiai, then anything goes. You have to try to win to get the point. All right. If there's the chance to do the ski, you're gonna do the ski. If you've got a chance to do the gyakudo, you can do the gyakudo. The whatever. Degote, you're gonna get the degote. But most of us aren't in that situation when we're doing the keiko with a sensei. The problem is a lot of us don't always recognize it. So look, to elaborate a little bit on the comment that was put, I wrote on this comment as well, because there's some great replies to it too, saying that ski is a valid waza. I'm not sure why people get upset about it and stuff like that. And they're valid points, they really are, because ski is a valid waza, it's as valid as the others. But there is a reason, and this is what I wrote. There is a reason that ski is rude against senseis, all right? And that's because by sort of trying to do ski on them, and this is my opinion, I might be wrong. By doing, and I've done this as well, of course, I've made this mistake, and I look back on this and I sort of cringe in the sort of past when I've sort of been trying to do these ski on senseis and stuff. It's not just ski, there's other waza as well that fall into this category. It's more about the mindset towards the keiko itself. So when you sort of try and do ski on the sensei, you're kind of saying to them that you're treating this keiko as gokaku geiko, right? You're not recognizing this as them doing hikitate geiko. You're recognizing this as gokaku geiko. In other words, we're peers. We're on the same level, right? That's what you're sort of doing when you do that. And I didn't get this until I was on the other side of it, right? If I'm honest, yeah. So that's why it's difficult. And this is like when you're like, if you're like 2nd dan, 3rd dan or something, 4th dan even, whatever, and you think I'm talking rubbish, go and fire it off in the comments, go for it, because I felt the same when I was like 3rd dan and I knew it all as well. But when you're on the other side of it and you're like, right, okay, you're trying to get the person that you're practicing with to understand the process of the tachiai without laying it out obviously for them, because they're supposed to be starting to pick it up. You're trying to show them something that they've got to recognize themselves without obviously showing them, yeah. And then they hit you with a ski. It's like, yeah, you just totally didn't get that, and you just sort of, you've done that, so now you feel great because you just skied the sensei. Well, it's like, well done. But you missed the actual chance, and even though you don't recognize it, and you kind of, when you're on the other side, it's like, oh, but you can't, at the same time, you can't be like, no, because then they're at this sort of arrogant level where they're sort of like, oh, you're just saying that because you don't want me to ski or something, or because you're kind of upset that I skied you or something. It's like, no. But whatever, this is the thing. It's a process we all have to go through. And I've been there as well. I've been on that side of it, and I've been like, done this ski on this hachidan. Like, yeah, whoa, yeah, get in. Look at that. How good am I? And now, like, I remember it, and I'm like, That's embarrassing. And obviously, like the sensei at the time, and I only ever did that with sensei that I had like really good relationships with, that I really knew well. But even now, I look back at it and think, wow, what a waste! How I wasted that keiko with that sensei. And look, I know some of you are going to disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But you know, there is a reason why different types of keiko exist. So, if a sensei does a ski on you, it's not an invitation to do it back. It's not like, yeah, let's do ski on each other. It's not quite how it works. If they do ski on you, it's usually because there's something that they want to communicate to you. Might be that you're open for ski. Might be that you're, you're not properly interacting or engaging. Yeah. Because here's the thing, right? If you're like third dan or second dan or first dan or fourth dan, and you're with like a seventh or eighth dan sensei, and they like apply semi to you, and like it doesn't work, and then you hit them and beat them. You haven't beaten them. You just didn't get what was happening. It's not like, oh yeah, his semi didn't work on me. It's like, no, you didn't pick up on the flags they were giving to you, because that's the role that they're playing. Do you see what I'm saying? And yeah, it might be, oh well, that this particular one wasn't doing that, and maybe that's the case, but that's how you should approach that keiko. You should, you're not there to beat them. You're not there to beat the sensei, right? So if you don't recognize their semi, then you're missing what they're showing you. And that means sometimes you have to attack when you know it's going to fail, but you should attack anyway. Because it's not Gokaku Geiko. Gokaku Geiko is the competitive keiko between peers, right? But you've got to understand that you're not peers with the sensei, yeah? And this is where it's difficult, because I know that it's not like culturally the same. And when I say culture, I mean like the dojo culture's not the same. But no, I don't think you should. I don't think you should do the ski on the senseis, to be honest. Not if you want to get the most out of your keiko, and even if they ski you, I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should turn it into a. If they say, right, let's do ippon, that's different. That's different. So that changes. That's them saying, right, this isn't Shido Geiko, this isn't Hikitate Geiko, this is Ippon Shobu now. Now we're fighting for a point. And they might still do the kind of Hikitate Geiko in that, but it's fair game at that point, right? It's fair game at that point. But during the actual Keiko, you got to understand that the sensei is there for you to use, right? Not to beat. So, like, this is why, for me, like, if I'm doing the keiko with and this is where I'm at right now, I might think differently in 10 years time, but if I'm doing the keiko with the 8th dan sensei or 7th dan sensei, then I try to avoid, especially like against the 8th dan sensei, right? Now, with the 7th dan sensei, it's a bit different for me now, right? Because that's the next step for me. So now I'm looking at trying to challenge them for the next grade. So I'm trying to get to their level, yeah? But like the 8th dan's another step away, and it's a much bigger step. So if I'm like with the 8th dan, like I'm not going to ski him. I'm not going to use ojiwaza, right? I remember, and I know I'm taking a long time on this topic, but I feel quite passionately about it. I think it's really, really important, because I think it's too misunderstood about how we use and appreciate our senseis in Kendo. And I'm saying this from a place where I've made these mistakes, and it wasn't, I started to understand this earlier in my Kendo career. I was about 4th dan going on 5th dan when I started to get it, but I didn't really properly get it until much later on. And I do remember doing keiko with one 8th dan sensei, who's really amazing sensei, very famous sensei, very, very strong, all Japan level sensei. Very lucky to practice with him. I've practiced with him a couple of times. And he said, right, ippon shobu. And he was always very kind to me, very helpful to me. He said ippon shobu. And I remember doing this keiko with him. And this is like, I was 5th dan at the time. I was still living in Japan, but, you know, I had going for 6th dan in my mind. And I remember hitting degote, devana kote on him. And him going, oh, yeah, good kote, well done, you win, sort of thing. And finishing the keiko. And I felt really disappointed. Because it was a real turning point for me. I really remember it, because I remember hitting the kote. I remember thinking, oh, he's coming for men. And actually, he applied the seme, took the sen, and he attacked my men. And I saw it sort of coming. And I was like, I don't know, 15 years younger than him or something. And pam, I hit this degote. And I hit him and it was good. But it was like, yeah, I was just quicker. And I sort of fell back on a waza that I was sort of painted into a corner. You know, I felt I was, going over it. I was painted into this corner. And I just fell back onto a waza that I knew I would score with. It felt kind of cowardly. I didn't have the guts to stand up to him face to face and face him head on. Instead, it was like, whoa, boom, like this. And I hit the kote. And this in the Shiai, this is valid. And I said it was ippon shobu, I get that right. But even in the context of that ippon shobu, with the direction I wanted to take my kendo, what I wanted to achieve, all I had achieved from that was a very short feeling of satisfaction, self-satisfaction, and a little massage of my own ego for having beaten him in a momentary ippon shobu, whereas I could have overcome myself to try to challenge him head on with a sort of more a bolder approach and then a bolder attack. And I failed to do that. And that's why after that, even though I'd won, I felt that I'd sort of cheated myself. I'm probably overanalyzing it a little bit, but it was just one of those points where it was like, oh, yeah, that was wrong. That was sort of wrong for what I want out of my kendo at this point. So... And this sort of ski thing sits in the same point, you know what I'm saying? It sort of sits in the same area. It's like, well, okay, yeah, so, all right, cool. I made myself feel good for a little bit. And, so, there we go. I guess that's the rant there on that for today. Let's get to the next question. I know I'm not like put that super cohesively. I know that it's a little bit all over the place. I know it's a difficult and deep concept, and I know that it's sort of counter to the way that a lot of dojos have their own internal culture. But at the end of the day, Sensei is not there for you to beat. Next one. Hi Sensei, I bought a few Kendo books over the last couple of months. Just wondering if you have any recommendations, any good books out there you found helpful. Only one, this one. Official Guide for Kendo Instruction. This is by far the best book. It's the only one you really need. All the other good ones all the others are good. They really are. So get whichever ones you want. A lot of them are out of print, a lot of the good ones. But this is definitely the best one in English on Kendo Instruction. All right, there's a lot of good ones in Japanese, but this is the best English one. Hi Andy, I was just looking at the new BKA grade and panel sheet. I hope these make it quicker and easier for the panel to mark and give subsequent feedback. They do look like an improvement. I was just wondering, with Chakuso being one of the tickable points, if one has a well-developed hara and koshi like myself, so the hakama refuse to hang well, such as the pleats not being straight and the back hem not being too high, higher than the proper, a little bit higher. Would this be considered as a failing point? Thanks. So what you're saying is if your body shape doesn't necessarily conform to the regular conception of how the hakama or the uniform should fit, will you be failed on the point of Chakuso. So let's get into this. So look, an email was sent around, I think it went around the whole British Kendo Association, about how grading panels in our country are going to change slightly with the way that they mark the grading. I think it's a good idea, actually, as it's quite simple, straightforward. It's a little checklist. Chakuso, Kamae, these sort of things. Datotsu, these sort of things. Are they good enough for the appropriate grade? And it's so that the panel can therefore give relevant and appropriate feedback quite quickly. As well, I think as a grading panelist, it makes things a bit easier to know what you sort of, it makes things a little bit more even, to be fair, which is fine. The feedback thing, I'm still like this about. I know, like in our country, we always write notes and we often give feedback. Like, this isn't the norm, just so everybody knows, right? Like, it's not the norm to get grading feedback. Like, if you do grading in Japan and you fail, you just fail. You just fail. If you do like 6th dan, 7th dan, and 8th dan, if you fail, they send you a postcard with feedback on it, and it just says, you were close or not yet, basically. It doesn't say like, well, your kamae was like this and this was like that. I'm in two minds about it a little bit, about the whole giving feedback thing. I know it can be useful, but I also think it's the person's responsibility as well, rather than sort of relying on the grading panelists to sort of spoon feed it to you. So I'm sort of in split minds, but the fact is that is what we do. So for that point, yeah, I think it's a good idea. I know that wasn't your question, but in terms of look, Chakuso is the way you wear the equipment and the uniform. You're not going to fail you shouldn't fail if your body shape isn't the same as how the next person's is, and it means that the hakama pleats, like you say, they don't necessarily sit straight. Mine don't sit perfectly straight, to be honest, at my current shape, shall we say, or what have you. That isn't, no, it's not that. What it is are the himo tied properly? Are the himo the same length? Is the boga worn correctly? Is it in a good state of repair? Are you wearing the correct equipment? And as I say, is it worn correctly? These things that are outside of your control, really, they don't come into the sort of, they don't really come to it so much, okay? So you shouldn't really get failed on that. Next one, Hand. Quick little question. How can you get that snap in your wrist when you do the strike, or how to focus on that particular part? I'm feeling as though my strikes don't feel like they have that last minute pop or snap in the wrist so much. Anything you could do to train that would be awesome. So you need to get wrist flexibility. All right. If you go and watch one of my like Suburi long videos or something like that, I do one where you twist the wrists like this. When you do the Suburi like this. Yeah. Do that one. Also your Shomen Suburi, but think about that snap. And that's pretty much it. Practice with it in mind. Not just doing, thinking about what you want to improve. Okay, last one. Here we go. Hello, Andy. What are the rules for heel position when attacking? Does the heel have to be above ground when you will hit the target? My left Achilles is not functioning so well, so the whole sole hits the ground during strike. If I manage to get the Kikentai correct and find the target, would it be valid? I know that the heel should be up and the Kendoka should be moving on his toes. What do you suggest in such a case? So, all right, so this isn't a rule thing. There's no rules that say the position of the foot have to be this and that. But you do have to strike with Kikentai no Ichi, all right? Kikentai no Ichi. For the most part, that means that you have to leap forward with Fumikomi and strike. So your left heel can't be flat when you do that. Obviously, some people have got limitations and they can't do it. So you have to try and figure out how you can still achieve Datotsu strikes with Kikentai no Ichi. That's the unification of the spirit, sword, and body in your strikes, whilst working within the limitations that you've got. It is possible. It definitely is possible. All right. You just have to figure out how that works in your specific situation. Does that mean you have to do Suriashi instead of Fumikomi? Perhaps. Does it mean that you have to do the Fumikomi in a slightly different way? Perhaps. You have to work this out and probably together with your sensei to do it. But it isn't a case of, well, you can't just do is like, well, I can't do strikes with Kikentainuchi. You can't do that because then you're just not doing Kendo. You have to figure out how you can work your limitations around that so that, or you can work it with your limitations in order to achieve Kikentai no Ichi. Now, luckily, the concept of Kikentai no Ichi is not extremely rigid. It doesn't mean you have to do Fumikomi. It doesn't mean you have to have your left heel off the ground. But it does mean that your body and your sword and your spirit have to be unified as you strike. All right? So I can't give you much more detailed advice on that because I can't see it, what you're talking about, and I don't really know. But I do think it is possible. But don't just sit back and say, well, I can't do Kikentai no Ichi, because it's not true. You can. You just have to figure out how it works for you. Okay. There we go. That's the end of the show. Thank you for joining me. Some great questions there. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, shop at KendoStar. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.